Welcome to the 5th episode of Let's Talk About podcast series, the Lux CMA audio channel for high-level insights and updates. I'm Miao Li, Head of Debt Capital Markets at BIL, and today I have 3 special guests who are joining us to discuss sustainable finance. I'm here with Vanessa Müller, partner at consulting practice and ESG lead at EY Luxembourg, Anna Lindner, partner at GSK Stockmann, João Calva, regulatory affairs officer at Luxembourg Stock Exchange. With the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, CSRD, set to transform the landscape of sustainable finance, what does this mean for Luxembourg's capital market? Today, we will explore the CSRD, the latest regulatory updates, and how capital markets are driving sustainability forward. Let's jump right in. To start off, Anna, can you provide a brief overview of the CSRD? What are the key requirements and which organizations are affected?
Thank you, Miao. Gladly. The Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive is a directive introduced by the European Union in 2022 to enhance and standardize the way companies report on their sustainability practice. It built upon the existing Non-Financial Reporting Directive, abbreviated as NFRD, but CSRD expanded the scope to include all large companies and all companies listed on regulated markets, except listed microentities, and even certain non-EU enterprises. In addition to expanding the scope of entities required to report, CSRD also expanded the scope of information that enterprises are required to provide. CSRD requires companies to report on a wide range of sustainability issues, including climate change, biodiversity, human rights, and social factors. The primary goal of the CSRD is to ensure that companies provide consistent, comparable, material, and reliable information on their ESG performance. The introduction of the European Sustainability Reporting Standards, or in short ESRS, for example, aims at improving comparability and consistency of sustainability reports by introducing a common reporting framework. The ESRS also helps enterprises to focus on sustainability information considered most relevant and material for the purpose of reporting. Another significant requirement is the need for companies to have their sustainability reports audited. This was considered a major shift from the NFRD, which did not require external assurance at all. The limited assurance audit introduced with CSRD aims to ensure the accuracy and reliability of the reported information, giving stakeholders greater confidence in the data provided. To come back on the concept of materiality, the CSRD emphasizes the concept of double materiality. This means that companies must consider not only how sustainability issues affect their financial performance, but also how their operations impact the environment and society. As a directive, CSRD requires the transposition of EU member states to become applicable to enterprises. The transposition deadline given to the member states expired in July 2024, and the phased-in reporting requirements were meant to start for the financial year 2024. Given the political discussions around the recently published Omnibus package, which we will also cover in this podcast, some member states, including Luxembourg and Germany, have opted to postpone the transposition of the CSRD. As a consequence, enterprises now face the challenge to deal with fragmented sustainability reporting requirements across the European Union, where some member states transpose CSRD and others still rely on the old framework of NFRD.
We hear a lot about recent developments in the CSRD. On one side, new terms like Omnibus proposal has come to the forefront. On the other side, the EU taxonomy and concepts such as double materiality have been established for such a long time. Vanessa, could you streamline those key changes and explain us how these rules are interconnected?
Thank you, Miao. Indeed, these elements are keeping us busy these days. On February 26, as you mentioned, the European Commission introduced its first Omnibus package. That is a proposal aiming at simplifying sustainability reporting. The Omnibus package includes the CSRD and EU taxonomy. We are going to look at that, but also corporate due diligence directive and carbon border adjustment mechanism proposals. From a CSRD perspective, I think there are 2 main aspects that are covered. One is on the time of application. The second one is really on the content. If we look at the reporting timeline, we see that the proposal is that it would remain unchanged for the first wave of reporters, so the one that was subject to an FRD, as Anna explained, while reporting obligation for wave 2 and 3 that were supposed to be covered as from financial year 25 onwards would be postponed by 2 years. Then if we look at the scope, the proposal is, or the consequence of the proposal is that approximately 80% of companies could now be excluded from the CSRD, and only entities with over 1,000 employees at consolidated level and a net turnover exceeding 50 million or a balance sheet above 25 million would remain in scope, which are much higher criteria than the current version of CSRD. For non-EU undertakings, the criteria could be revised to 450 million euro of revenues in the EU, which was previously 150 million. And as you said, so interestingly enough, materiality, the concept of DMA, would remain unchanged. So companies should continue evaluating financial and impact risk and opportunities. As to the SRS, by July 26, the SRS would be revised to reduce the number of mandatory data points. And also no sector-specific standards would be introduced, on the contrary of what was foreseen so far. The transition also to reasonable assurance is proposed to drop, so it would remain limited assurance. And then interesting to look at is also how EFRAG released the voluntary reporting standards for SMEs, so-called VSME, that addresses the same sustainability issues as the SRS for large undertakings, but follows the key principle of proportionality, so ensuring that the requirements are adapted also to the size and characteristics of SMEs, which was I think, a point of attention for the market so far. Then on taxonomy also, an applicability exercise will be necessary rather than taking for granted automatic applicability if in scope of CSRD. And the applicability requirements would slightly differ with criteria, opt-in regime and materiality elements to be taken into consideration. So all in all, the rationale behind these changes is allowing companies to focus obviously on still sustainability strategy, but also innovation and competitiveness while maintaining those sustainability commitments.
Xiao, the Luxembourg Stock Exchange has been at the forefront of sustainable finance. Could you let us know what has been the recent market reaction to the developments that has just been discussed? And how is Luxembourg Stock Exchange playing a role in all these developments?
Hi, Miao. Great to be here, and thank you very much for the question. As Vanessa pointed out, I think it's very important to note first that as of today, nothing has changed. For now, these are a set of proposals that will still have to go through trilogue negotiations, in which can be a lengthy process, despite the request from the EC and the EPP for an expedited review. The recent debate at the European Parliament shows that it's not going to be an easy road, and historically, a legislative process for similar reforms takes about 18 to 19 months to complete. In addition, these proposals can and likely will be changed during negotiations. In any case, we can already see the reaction from listed issuers, particularly those that were already in CSRD's path. Again, as Vanessa mentioned before, the Omnibus package introduces two major changes to the CSRD. On the one hand, a postponement of reporting obligations for most entities, the stop-the-clock proposal, and on the other hand, substantive revisions that reduce complexity and the reporting scope, which, like we mentioned, according to the EC, this would exempt approximately 80% of companies from mandatory sustainability reporting. While the proposed delay offers breathing room for issuers concerned with compliance, reactions have been mixed. Larger issuers and financial market participants generally welcomed the reduced administrative burden and a potential simplification of reporting obligations. With the proposal to narrow CSRD scope, it is also important to highlight that listed SMEs and EU and non-EU listed issuers with less than the average number of 1,000 employees are now out of scope of the mandatory sustainability reporting rules, and this is seen as a positive outcome by some. However, some sustainability-focused stakeholders have expressed concerns about whether these changes could dilute transparency and comparability, expressing concern that these changes might lead to inconsistencies in sustainability data, for example, and potentially affecting investor confidence, which was building up in recent years. And again, as I mentioned before, uncertainty around the final legislative process remains a challenge. Some companies that were preparing for compliance now face ambiguity. Should they proceed as planned, keep their compliance or reporting plans, some already in full force, or wait for the final version of the Omnibus package? In conclusion, issuers should closely monitor the upcoming negotiations and developments and take the opportunity where possible, raise and convey their concerns and concrete proposals to policymakers. Those that were set to report under CSRD may now face shifting timelines, and entities affected by the new scope exclusions, particularly those with fewer than 1,000 employees, must reassess their compliance strategies. However, it is also important to note that even if and when reporting under CSRD or any other framework is not mandatory due to postponements or reduced scope, issuers can still choose to report voluntarily. There is no restriction preventing them from doing so. In fact, voluntary reporting can be beneficial as it enhances transparency, strengthens investor confidence, and ensures companies are well prepared for any future regulatory requirements. As for the role of stock exchanges, we will continue to have a unique role in this evolving landscape, hopefully, because as a key infrastructure provider, LuxSE's role is to continue to promote transparency, investor confidence, and regulatory compliance. At LuxSE, specifically via the Luxembourg Green Exchange, LGX, we already support issuers in their sustainability frameworks, whether they are mandatory or voluntary, ensuring that companies continue to provide decision-useful data for investors and that data is visible and displayed for interested investors worldwide. We will continue to do that, and despite these regulatory shifts, we will continue to try to assist issuers bridging the gap between regulatory requirements and market expectations.
It seems there has been a lot of success in sustainable finance, yet numerous developments ongoing. In this evolving regulatory environment, Vanessa, would you wrap up our discussion by highlighting the key challenges and outlining the next steps? I believe this will help capital market players better prepare for what's ahead.
Thank you, Miao. I will try to. So we saw that the proposed changes reshape sustainability reporting with the aim to offer more flexibility, probably also better control costs, extended timelines, but this also comes with raising concerns in terms of comparability, as you just explained, João, governance and investor expectations. So we really can see that several opportunities and risks emerge that businesses must consider as they navigate the evolving regulatory landscape. In terms of capitalizing on opportunities, there is more time to prepare. So companies have 2 additional years to align with reporting requirements, refine their strategies, leverage on industry benchmarks, etc., which is probably welcome when we see also how much time it has taken to get prepared for the initial proposal. Resources and cost allocations. Companies no longer in scope can probably consider redirecting compliance costs towards also the effective strategic sustainability initiatives, driving long-term performance and ESG transformation. And obviously with that, beyond compliance, strengthening sustainability impact. So we see companies that embed sustainability into their strategy will be better prepared also for future regulatory shifts, supply chain shifts, and risks, etc. In terms of navigating the risks, João mentioned also the investor scrutiny and risk exposure. So a reduced regulatory scope here may create a gap between reporting requirements and investors' expectations. In terms of comparability and benchmarking, fewer companies reporting could weaken the data consistency, making cross-industry and cross-border comparison very difficult, potentially leading also to the rise of fragmented reporting frameworks. About governance and sustainability information, so voluntary reporting lacks assurance mechanism, raising concerns over data reliability, greenwashing, inconsistent value chain disclosures, etc. To successfully navigate these changes, companies will need to find a balance between leveraging new flexibilities and maintaining sustainability commitments. Regardless of how the legislation evolves, So here, I think businesses should take proactive steps to ensure that sustainability remains a core part of their strategy. Number one, probably assessing scope and compliance impact. So obviously monitoring the changes in the regulation and determining whether your company still falls under CSRD. Then defining a future-proof sustainability strategy that goes beyond regulation, integrating ESG into governance and corporate strategy. Double materiality, we said, is going to be maintained. So I rather see this as a no regret move because it helps defining the universe of ESG reporting and indicators. Then looking at the value chain engagement, there are some adjustments, and here encouraging voluntary disclosure from supply chain partners and aligning with CSRD covered entities for reporting consistency and understanding expectations could be probably a good move. And lastly, also still considering leveraging technology for efficiency in terms of data, risk management, sustainability tracking, etc. So now, looking at the regulatory landscape, it's true that it's evolving, but then the purpose of sustainability remains the same, and the urgency as well. So probably sustainability reporting can be looked at as a key strategic tool for long-term resilience and value creation.
Thank you, Vanessa, Anna, and Zhao, for sharing your valuable insights on the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive. Dear audience, we hope today's conversation has helped you gain a clearer understanding on the CSRD, its recent developments, market directions, challenges, and solutions. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to leave us a review and share your feedback. Make sure you subscribe to the Lux EMA Let's Talk About podcast on Spotify for fresh expert insights and upcoming episodes, as we continue to bring you the latest insights and updates from the world of sustainable finance. You can also catch this episode on the Lux EMA YouTube channel with all previous episodes. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next episode. Until then, keep thinking green.